Hi, Main Street Yoga Center community. Good to see you. I'm here with Madleen Alsabbah, and she is going to be introducing herself to our community. We're really grateful to have her joining us here in November. You're going to see her on the schedule for a few classes. She's going to be taking over the Thursday 5:15, as well as the Tuesday 4 p.m. And also temporarily in November, just to give you guys a little extra introduction to her. She'll be covering the Monday 9 a.m. as well. So we're really glad to have you, Madleen. I know that you have done a little bit in the Madison yoga community before. You were in Chicago for a while, and now you're back. So welcome back to Madison, and we're looking forward to being able to have you partake in our community.
Yay, thank you. I'm so excited to be back.
Yeah,
And so
great.
excited to be teaching at Main Street. It's such a beautiful space.
Yeah, yeah. So introducing yourself to some of the students who might be taking your class, what do you think they should expect from your yoga class?
Oh, expect the unexpected. That's what I always like to say. Um, yeah, I mean, no, really, I guess, yeah, expect the unexpected. Every class is so different. I really do teach intuitive based. I don't come prepped. For me, I go with however my body is feeling in the moment and love to just kind of tune into the energies. And I know that whatever is going to come out is going to be what it's meant to be. It's like if you think about like a yoga practice, it's the real yoga practice is not always going to be peaceful and just like, refreshing every time. Sometimes, depending on what we're going through throughout the day or through the week or just in life in general, it's always going to show up differently. And for everyone, it's going to show up differently. For someone, it might be the most divine practice, and for someone, it might be a very triggering practice. But for me, feel like that is all important, and it's all just as special, to be able to go in there and really just feel whatever is coming through. Um, for practice, I personally love to start with chanting Om in the beginning, just as a way to one connect to all within and with all, and also just to even tap into our voices. There's something really powerful about tapping to our voices when we hum, when we Om. That is an invitation for us to listen to our body and to listen to our inner voice as well before practice. So, yeah.
Yeah.
And some playfulness, of course. I definitely bring in some playfulness some days. So,
Yeah. So one of the things I'm hearing is just like kind of expect something that's going to have some kind of attunement to whether it's the season or the vibe of the day or just kind of the collective feeling in the room. Like expect something that comes from more of that place of like, hey, there's a human experience that's arising here, and
mhm.
we're going to move through that today in the body.
Yes. Yeah, we get to welcome it with, you know, open arms, open heart, open eyes, if you choose, of course. It's like I said, everybody's different. Every story inside the body is so different, and our minds is so different. And I do love to talk about aligning the body, but at the same time, I really encourage people to listen to their bodies and how they want to align it. Because it's, like I said, every single body is different, like while one person's foot might be able to go inward, maybe another person's foot might not be able to do that. So it's really about listening to what your body needs at the moment, while also, staying engaged if you feel called. But
Yeah.
it's your practice at the end of the day. So,
Yeah. Yeah, I mean one of the things I like to talk about too is like there's a lot of these like dynamic polarities that are alive in yoga, and so one of the ones I'm hearing coming up right now is like this thing that's alive between, on the one hand, there's this thing that we call alignment, which I don't necessarily see as like that the foot has to be in a certain position or the leg has to be in a certain position, as much as there's some kind of paying attention to what we know about the function of the body and like how the body functionally works through studying the body from a perspective of from the outside, like basically like how you would look at the body from the outside is a lot of anatomy and biology. It has this objectiveness, which is important, but at the same time, it is also it's a little bit like sort of objectifying in the way that there's a like, okay, it's stuff, and we're gonna organize the stuff in quote the right way. And so there's like upsides and downsides to that. I don't know if you're aware, but there was this big controversy with some of the famous yoga teachers in India in like 20 years ago, I think this was, where a surgeon came out and he was secretly like doing hip replacements on a bunch of these teachers, and they didn't want anybody to know. And part of it was that they weren't paying attention enough to this objective kind of like anatomical alignment domain. So for so definitely like really important to pay attention to that. Like there are things that can happen to the body that are negative if you don't. And at the same time, there's this other side, which is like the experiential aspect of the body. And in that, there's a richness. Like this is what enables a yoga practice to not be just like a bunch of checklists of things to do or to align when you're in a yoga pose. It's what allows a lot of times a reconciliation with the sort of like background or the subconscious parts of the psyche. And
Yes.
it's what allows a richness of experiencing life to come forward. So, so I'm appreciating you talking about those two domains, and yeah, I'm wondering if, yeah, feel welcome to bounce off of that if you like.
Yeah, there's actually, I was talking to someone about that not too long ago about, like there's this like really learning to balance of like, okay, staying in a pose, um, because like you can move through that pose and that discomfort, but obviously like not wanting to stay in a pose because you're in pain or forcing yourself to be in this pose. But if you're in a pose and you're noticing that your mind is like really racing, right, the discomfort's coming through, but you continue to stay in it and you're holding it and you're breathing, and like really like you notice this stuff is coming through, but giving yourself that permission to like breathe it through. There can be, and I've had this happen to me and I've had it happen to other people, there can be this like pivotal moment where either a release comes through and this like softness comes into place where you're just like, whoa, you're like fully here with your body. Or like, like that's like an opportunity right there. And I think it's really learning how to find the balance, because there is now this, the listening to your body can go into avoiding the body as well. Sometimes I feel that like people, it's not necessarily listening to the body, like it could be listening to the body, obviously we take what we need, but sometimes there can be that avoidance through really going deeper
Mm-hmm.
into the body when we don't want to sit in that discomfort and breathe through that discomfort. And so yeah, there's like an opportunity there. I recently like studied Kala Tantra yoga, and it's a very disciplined practice. It's the same sequence every time, but at the same time, it is about like really tuning and listening to the body, but you stay in the poses. But of course, you could always come out of it. There isn't really a necessary way to like, they don't um, adjust you or anything in it, because it is about you listening to your body. And I mean, to get into the Kala Tantra practice, you have to be practicing yoga for quite some time, because there are some poses in there that are definitely not beginner friendly.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but there is, yeah, that like pivotal moment there, when you can just like really soften, and the whole intention is to connect to the divine through breath, movement, and sound. So even giving ourselves permission to make sound while we're maybe struggling in that pose and not fully holding it in, but like giving ourselves that opportunity to just like sigh or like, like to give ourselves that space to release while we're also building that strength, and finding that balance between the strength and the softness can really really be beneficial, and for me has brought me into a deeper connection to the divine within my body. So yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, two things I heard from there. Like one, I'm really appreciating the term discomfort because I do think of like, although pain is sometimes a very umbrella term, which can include discomfort, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're doing damage to your body. And I
Yes.
always encourage students, like if you're not sure if it's discomfort or something that's creating harm in the body, then uh, assume it might be harm until you know better. Just in other words, err on the side of caution. Uh,
Hmm.
but at the same time, yeah, I have experienced that moment that you're talking about, which is like if you can take on a practice of being with the uncomfortable, which some people do with like cold plunges, or
Yeah.
maybe I'm just gonna make sure I drink some apple cider vinegar every morning and I hate it. But it's like taking time to be really present with that, but not avoiding the experience of it because it's unpleasant. Uh,
Mhm.
does, at least the way I've heard it explained in the traditions, it helps unwind samskaras, which are like these psychic knots uh,
Mm.
that we hold on to in the subconscious. Or I've also heard it described as like burning through your karma, right? The things that basically you're stuck in loops on. It helps
Yeah.
disconnect those loops. And so, whether or not you take on some of the traditional language around it, there's a freeing up of the experience of being human, of the psyche, that can happen
Mhm.
to help get us out of our loops.
Mhm. And there's something so powerful too about really being present with that discomfort and like diving into it versus turning away from it, because I feel like that can also be used in our everyday life, with all the discomforts that are happening in life. Oftentimes it's too much, and I will say like we're quite overstimulated with what's happening around the world. But to be able to give yourself that permission to really look at it and feel it, I feel like gives yourself more space in the heart. For me personally, at least, I've noticed that it's given me more space in my heart and so much more compassion and so much more connection at the same time, too. Like, because I've been able to connect to myself deeply, that I feel like I've been able to connect to people who I don't even, might not even speak the same language with,
Mm.
just through that eye contact, just being able to like observe rather than turn away based on how they look.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That experientially experiencing the softening of the heart, I think, is what lands for me if someone were listening to this and thinking like, okay, how do I know if I'm getting it? Like that there is this softening around the heart that comes from being able to receive discomfort. And one of the things I notice is like this language that we're using here is also very prevalent in a lot of like meditative traditions as well. But I notice that there is something really genius about the yoga exercise and the physicality of what we're doing versus, excuse me, being seated in being present with the discomfort that brings about a whole different kind of power. Um, I don't know if you have anything. I mean, this is all ad lib, but like, I don't know if you have anything to speak to that. But that's what's coming up for me at the moment, which is just
Would you mind repeating that again for me? Like,
yeah. So I mean, I've done a number of like Buddhist tradition kind of things and like just like very meditation focused things, and they talk about these same experiences of sitting with the discomfort, like opening your presence to the discomfort, like really receiving it in a way, like taking it in, like the same way you might just like savor a some chocolate or a juicy piece of steak or like whatever it is that you're taking in, but to take in discomfort in that way.
yeah,
And I found success in that personally, but for me, being able to do that in the framework of the yoga exercises brings about this much fuller and I often find much more accessible experience to whether you want to call it unwinding samskaras or burning up karma or
yeah,
whatever it is. But there really is something to these yoga exercises in
yeah.
combination with presence that they kind of multiply on each other.
Yeah, I want to like repeat what you just said, experiencing something fuller. I think, when I hear you talk about this too, and I think about the experience of like facing the discomfort, I think about a child, like, and how a child fully experiences everything, and they don't hide how they're feeling. Like, if something's uncomfortable for them, they start to cry, they really start to express
Hmm.
themselves in any way. And I think, I always say my goal is to like come back to being a child because there's a full experience. Like, they're fully experience all their emotions, all of like the colors, the textures, everything. And I think we've just been, unfortunately programmed to like numb that full experience, like the full experience of what it's like to be a human being. And yeah, so yeah, there's something really beautiful about being able to, feel the discomfort and just, yeah, come back to the child that felt it all, So yeah.
Yeah, it strikes me that like we don't really get to choose what we numb out, right? If we numb out
Yeah.
uncomfortability, we also are numbing out love and care and like authentic compassion and
Mhm.
like a lot of these capacities that most people I find are looking to cultivate and want to have in their lives.
Yeah, I feel like it really helps you see beyond, again, just what's external. Like I was observing a child the other day, um, looking at, someone who I feel like, I got to connect with these people, but I feel like a lot of people were judging these people just based on their loudness. And this is at the airport, and they're swearing and such. But this child was looking at one of the woman that was a part of that group, and was just smiling at her, and just to be able to see beyond whatever this woman is saying externally or behaving, but like she was able to just see right through her and smile. And I always feel like the child is able to see the heart of a human. And yeah, even like I've noticed that, like when I've given myself permission to really feel and to face my own discomfort and to face my own shadows, that it's given me permission to even see someone who most people would maybe judge on the outside as like really seeing their heart, like seeing their, even their child, like even seeing their child self. I look at, sometimes like I look at my parents and the way that they interact, or like elders and the way that they interact, and I just imagine how they were as children, what their dynamic would be in the classroom as a kindergartner or even as a preschooler. And yeah, it's really cool to see that. So
Yeah.
yeah.
I feel like there's lots of directions we could go from there, but
Yeah. Yeah.
but I think for the sake of keeping this a little bit more of an introductory conversation,
Yeah. I
um,
can share my intention, I guess, as a teacher
yeah, please.
too. Like, yeah, my intention is really to inspire people to come into just such deep connection to every single aspect of themselves, their shadows and their light, their joy and their pain and their anger, and to really come back to feeling and witnessing this world through the eyes of their inner child, through the eyes, and maybe not, maybe before any pain might have happened, but to be curious and to be playful and to, yeah, maybe be observant, and to also soften, to not have to take things so seriously all the time. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, that sounds wonderful. Well, I appreciate the conversation, Madeline, and
Yeah.
we're delighted to have you at the yoga studio and bringing a lot of your richness and capacity to help individuals into that space to
Mm.
our
Thank
community.
you, Alex. Yeah. I'm so excited. I really look forward to it.
Yeah,
So, thank you for creating this space. And yeah, thank you for having me.
yeah, it's good to do. All right, well, thank you, and
Yeah.
we'll see you at Main Street Yoga Center soon.
See y'all soon.